Hey, BCC here, and welcome to the finals of the Chill Draft League. It is me against Litten on a Prayer, and let's get into the matchup. So here's the team, my team on the left and their team on the right. So some of the scary things you can see on their team is that they have single strike Urshifu, which basically can one-shot almost every Pokemon on my team. It can definitely one-shot any Pokemon on my team if it has like a Life Orb or a Choice Band. And other than that, they also have Bronzong, which is pretty hard for me to do damage with other than with my Necrozma. And they also have Silvally, which can be any type, and so that's definitely a very concerning Pokemon. Last time we played, I also got pretty hard beat by Type Null and Swampert because of them being overall very bulky and hard to deal with Pokemon. And so, kind of, let's get into what I decided to bring. So here's my team. So I decided to go with Colbur Berry on my Necrozma, with Earth Power, Moongeist Beam, Photon Geyser, and Trick Room. The reason why I'm running Photon Geyser over something like Expanding Force is that I decided to go no Psychic Terrain this week at all, because if you look below my Necrozma, I have Meowstic with Prankster, Charm, and Fake Out, and below that I have Indeedee with Fake Out. And so my plan was to deal with a lot of their threats by using Fake Out, in addition using Charm on Meowstic to deal with a lot of their physical attackers. Since last time I played them, they brought exclusively physical attackers in our match. So one of the downsides with Meowstic is that Charm cannot target Urshifu because it's a dark type, and it also can, in theory, not target Silvally if it's a dark Pokemon. But last time we played, it was a steel type. And then I got Misty Terrain for Yawn on Swampert, and then Spore on the possibility of them bringing Shiinotic. And then I gave it a Rocky Helmet because, like I said last time, they had a lot of physical attackers, and that's a good way to get a little bit of chip. And as they're losing their attack, they're going to try to slowly kill Meowstic so they don't lose attack anymore, and then they get wear down. And it's also a good way to kind of break Focus Ashes on Pokemon. Below that we see is NDD. I gave it Own Tempo because I didn't want Psychic Terrain, and I gave it Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Follow Me with the Focus Sash. So I give it the Focus Sash so that there's no double up that can prevent me from, let's say, setting up Trick Room. And other than that, I gave it Dazzling Gleam to hopefully one-shot Urshifu, and then Shadow Ball to deal with some of the Pokemon like Bronzong and other Pokemon, other like possible like Steel Silvally or something like that. Next, we see I have a Rengaroo with Iron Ball Symbiosis. And so this main idea with this is to set up Trick Room and then put it next to Metagross. Use Brutal Swing to activate Metagross's weakness policy and give Metagross its Iron Ball. So Metagross at +2 attack with an Iron Ball underspeeds Bronzong in Trick Room. But in addition to underspeeding Bronzong in Trick Room, it also should one-shot most Pokemon like Urshifu. It should be able to one-shot Silvally. It should be able to, it's a roll to one-shot most type Null, depending on if it's has a lot of defense investment. It should roll on max HP for defense type Null. With an Eevee and so I gave it Hammer Arm to deal with some of those steel Pokemon and fighting Pokemon. Psycho Cut just for stab, super effective damage. Rock Slide for some of the flying Pokemon, and then Bullet Punch specifically to kill an Urshifu before it can Sucker Punch. In under Trick Room, since I don't have terrain, Sucker Punch is going to be pretty scary. In addition, it also is a good way to kind of just get some damage before it dies when it's outside of Trick Room. And other than that, on Oranguru, we have the Trick Room. We have Taunt specifically to deal with moves like Yawn and Protect on my opponent's team. And then finally, our last Pokemon is Rapidash. Rapidash, I decided to go with Rapidash over than something like Tapu Lele because Rapidash is a physical attacker, and last time they had a lot of special defense investment. In addition, it's naturally faster than Urshifu, so I don't need to give it an item like a Choice Scarf. And so I can give it a Badbury Berry to guarantee I survive any attack pretty much. And I give it Throat Chop, Play Rough, Low Kick, and Swords Dance. So Low Kick is the safe way to deal with some of the dark Pokemon like Urshifu or like Dark Silvally. But Play Rough is probably better than that, but it's only 90% accurate. And then Throat Chop specifically to deal with Bronzong. And then Sword Dance, I gave it as a means to get some better damage output and to kind of be able to get a good situation where I feel like they're going to have to protect because I have Fake Out pressure. And so overall, that's my team. And let's get into the matches. So here we are for game one. So looking at my opponent's team, they brought the exact same 6 Pokemon as they did against me in week 2 of this season. And so I'm feeling pretty good because I definitely over prepped for this exact 6 Pokemon. And if they would have brought some others, I feel like I'd be a little bad. So I decide to lead with the NDD. And the main options are, do I want to do NDD Oranguru or NDD Rapidash? Those are the 2 main lead options. So I decided to do NDD Oranguru with a Metagross and Necrozma on the back, and hope to kind of get in the hard Trick Room mode of my team composition. So let's get into the match. So my opponent leads Type Null and Urshifu, and I lead NDD Oranguru, and I reveal that I am not Psychic Terrain. So they should immediately expect me to have Fake Out, but I decided to Fake Out an Urshifu because I definitely can't get an attack by Urshifu because that will definitely one-shot my Oranguru. And in addition, it's likely going to be Focus Sash, so I want to be able to break its Sash with that. And so I decided to then also set up Trick Room because my Oranguru is faster because there's an Iron Ball, and my Metagross should be faster if I am able to transfer the Iron Ball into my Metagross. So my opponent switches out Urshifu, which definitely makes sense because, like I said, it's very obvious that I have Fake Out, and obviously I could have Protect, but I feel like it's probably a better situation because I'm going to get Trick Room up here, and it's a little bit awkward to have Urshifu under Trick Room. So they end up Swords Dancing with their Type Null, which definitely increases its damage output greatly and makes it a little bit scary, but I do get up Trick Room completely safely because I took 0 damage. And so here, I decided to just go with the Dazzling Gleam to get a little bit of damage because Shadow Ball doesn't do anything into Type Null, and Type Null is the bigger threat, and I decided to Foul Play into Type Null because now it has +2 attack, and this should do pretty good damage. So the Foul Play does go into the Type Null, and I reveal I'm Iron Ball, and it does a little bit under 50%, which is a little bit awkward. Definitely would be nice if it was a 2-shot. And here they decide to Yawn into my NDD and do the X-Scissor, and I get a little Dazzling Gleam off into the Type Null. And so here, I'm definitely in a little bit awkward situation. I decided I'm going to switch out into the Metagross because I think it should be pretty safe at taking hits, especially if they tried, because there's unlikely they're going to do a Ghost move into my NDD spot, and I feel like I should be able to take a Dark or a Bug move from these 2 Pokemon. And I decided to read into a Protect from Type Null and Taunt into the Swampert so it can't get yawned again. So NDD comes out, and Metagross gets in. And they end up protecting with Type Null, which is a really big deal for me. And I'm able to get a Taunt off into the Swampert. And so Swampert liquidations into my Oranguru, which, for reference, is actually a move that is not in their team last time, but it just barely doesn't KO. And my Oranguru is now in a great position because now I can Brutal Swing and activate my weakness policy to get it. And I decided to Hammer Arm into the Type Null in order to definitely get the KO on Type Null and also be able to get a good damage and or a KO onto any switch-ins like Urshifu or Silvally. It's a little bit awkward because it's 90% accurate instead of 100% accurate, and it definitely could be a little bit tricky, but I want to be able to play around a possible switch-in to like a Dark Pokemon. So they do switch out Type Null and to Urshifu, and I'm feeling really good here because now this should almost guarantee one-shot. This is 90% of the time this one-shots because it should one-shot if Hammer Arm connects, and even though Hammer Arm is only 90% accurate. And so I get +2 attack, and in addition to that, Oranguru hands over its Iron Ball into my Metagross, now making it guaranteed slower than anything on their team. And the Hammer Arm does connect and gets the Urshifu, and now I'm feeling really good. I think I'm in a commanding position at this point. And we see the liquidation into the Oranguru, getting a kill on the Oranguru, which I don't think is that big of a deal, and I'm pretty happy with that. And so now I decided to bring in Necrozma because it's better damage output, and I am in Trick Room, so I thought might as well do the more damage output. And I bring out Necrozma, and they bring out Bronzong, and I'm feeling very good because my Necrozma definitely has a very favorable matchup into this Bronzong. I do decide to Psycho Cut into the Swampert because I know that it cannot protect, and I decide to Moongeist Spring into the Bronzong because it should be a one-shot if it doesn't have a Ghost Resist Berry, or a two-shot if it does have a Ghost Resist Berry. So they decide to say and not protect with either Pokemon. The Psycho goes into Swampert, gaining a clean KO. I think that should be a guaranteed KO, no matter how what their bulk looks like. And they decided to speed swap, which I think is a little bit strange. This is the last turn of Trick Room, so now they are going to outspeed both my Pokemon outside of Trick Room. However, I'm not particularly concerned with this because Bronzong is not an offensive threat to either of these Pokemon. And if either of these Pokemon can survive, they can kill them. Kill the Bronzong. And we do about 50% because of the Ghost Resist Berry. And now we are a 2v3, and I have the +2 on my Metagross. And they bring back out Type Null, and Type Null is at pretty low health. And here, I could set up Trick Room, but I decided that I might as well just go for attacks because both my Pokemon's attack are guaranteed KOs if they connect. So Bronzong goes for the Heavy Slam into the Necrozma, and it does very little damage. And the Shadow Claw also goes into Necrozma, which does pretty good damage because it's 4 times as effective. But because of Prison Armor, I'm able to survive that. And we get the Moongeist Beam into the Bronzong, killing the Bronzong. And now if we hit the Hammer Arm, the game is wrapped up. And we see that I am able to end up connecting the Hammer Arm and get the KO. And I get the game 1, and I'm feeling really excited. This went a lot better than I was expecting because the last time we played, this went very poorly. So let's get into game 2. So here we are for game 2. After game 1, I'm feeling pretty good, and I decide that I should probably go with the other mode, which is Rapidash, and it could be NDD, but the main options is definitely Rapidash, and it's either NDD or Meowstic as my second. I decided to go with Meowstic, and then I definitely want Metagross in the back, and I can see an argument between a Oranguru, Necrozma, and NDD. Honestly, all 3 of them seem like reasonable Pokemon in the back. I pretty quickly decide that NDD is not the best in the back because I might want Trick Room for the Metagross, and so the main options are Necrozma versus Oranguru. And I decided to go with Oranguru as my 4th. So my opponent leads Silvally and Swampert into my Meowstic Rapidash lead. We can see with their head that it looks like maybe dark on their Silvally, and so I check real quick and I see that they are in fact dark Silvally, which is honestly a little bit awkward because it does make my Meowstic a little worse into it. But I decided to Swords Dance and Fake Out into the Silvally spot because I'm expecting them to attack with Silvally or protect with Silvally, and Swampert is probably just going to yawn. And if they yawn, I get a free Swords Dance up with the Rapidash because I can just Misty Terrain next turn to prevent the yawn from making me go to sleep. And so they do attack, protect, and I get the Swords Dance up with my Rapidash. And the yawn on the Swampert goes into my Rapidash. And so this is honestly a perfect turn 1 for me, because now I have a +2 Rapidash, which should almost always one-shot the Silvally with a low kick here. And I can just set up Misty Terrain, which makes the yawn completely useless that they did on turn 1. And so we low kick into the Swampert, or into the Silvally. The main debate is low kick might not actually KO the Silvally. However, Play Rough will always kill. However, if they switch into Bronzong, the Play Rough is a lot worse than the low kick. And so I'm debating on whether or not I should low kick or Play Rough here because, if it doesn't KO, I could be in a little bit awkward situation. But I decided to go with the low kick for the possibility of the Bronzong switch in. And then here, I'll only really play as Misty Terrain to make sure I don't fall asleep. So they do, in fact, switch out Silvally, and it is into Bronzong, which means that my low kick decision was the correct decision. And Bronzong protects, so this is another perfect turn for me because I'm able to get the Misty Terrain, prevent the turn 1 from my opponent's turn. And in addition, their turn 2 is also pretty much completely useless because I did the correct move into the Bronzong and get the low kick, doing just under 50%. So here now, Throat Chop is a pretty clean guarantee KO into the Bronzong, and I can Charm into the Swampert, making its attack significantly worse. This Charm's a little bit risky because if they bring an Urshifu, it could be a little bit, it could be completely useless. But they do not switch out, and the Charm halves the damage of the Swampert, and the Throat Chop comes out and gets a kill onto the Bronzong. So I'm definitely feeling very good about my position now because I don't expect this attack into my Rapidash too much, and we see it does, maybe a little bit around a quarter of my health, which I'm feeling pretty good about that amount of damage. So they bring out Urshifu, and I'm feeling pretty okay about this because I should be able to one-shot it. And so the main decision is, do I want to risk missing a play rough? Because low kick almost always kills Urshifu, but if Urshifu is notably bulky, it will not kill. And so I decided to go with the 100% accurate move, though, and to just decide to Charm into my Swampert. And they switch out the Swampert and to the Savali, and so my Charm ends up not doing anything there. And you know, we see that. And then they end up Sucker Punching. I'm like, oh, that's fine. I should be able to survive this Sucker Punch. And I just barely survived at 3 HP. That's an incredibly more damage than I was expecting. I found out later that this was a choice banned Urshifu. And so that actually had a 31.3% chance to one-shot me there. And so I happened to be pretty lucky that it didn't one-shot me there. So here now, I decide I'm just going to switch it, stand. It's a good chance that they might protect me, but I decide that it seems like I can just low kick to get some guaranteed damage and Charm into the Swampert. The reason why I want to get the damage into Savali is because Swampert actually doesn't threaten me much because I can just lower its attack with Charm. So they end up protecting Swampert instead of the Savali, which honestly I think was very good for me in general because that means I take less damage. And we get the low kick onto the Savali, and it ends up doing a lot less than I was expecting. It's definitely a little bit surprising it didn't do that much. It definitely means their Savali is pretty bulky, and I wasn't expecting it to be as bulky as it was. So maybe I should have played rough, but I'm feeling okay because now Metagross, I'm pretty sure Bullet Punch should kill the Savali from its from where it's at. And so I just bring out the Metagross, and I feel like I have a pretty safe game plan here where I can just Bullet Punch into Savali until it dies and Charm into the Swampert. And I think this is a situation where I'm feeling very likely that I have this game wrapped up, unless for some reason Bullet Punch does not one-shot the Savali like I expected to from this HP. And so I just double-check to make sure the damage calculations that Bullet Punch should almost always, and it does look like it should almost always do it. And so we just Charm into Swampert and Bullet Punch into Savali. They protect with Savali, which is completely fine. And we Charm goes into Swampert. Now Swampert's at -2 attack. And the Bullet Punch gets blocked by the Protect. And Liquidation from the Swampert goes into the Metagross, doing pretty close to negligible damage. However, my Misty Train does go away, which is fine because I can reset it up whenever I feel like. And so here we just Bullet Punch again and Charm a second time into the Swampert. So now Swampert's at -4 attack, and it's going to not be able to do pretty much any damage to any of my Pokemon. And the Bullet Punch ends up killing the Savali, and now it's a 3v1 with a -4 Swampert, and the Liquidation goes into my Meowstic, but not only it does a lot of damage because it gets a crit, but but because of the Rocky Helmet, it takes pretty good damage, and this Swampert is in very bad position. So now we just do Psycho Cut and Charm once again so that it gets at -6, and this game is still really great. This was a really tough matchup, and I spent a lot of time preparing for it, and they're overall, you know, the Legends on the Prayers team is really scary, but I definitely hard read some of their turns and hard read the Pokemon I was expecting to bring. And with that, I ended up feeling like I got to a position where I was able to, you know, kind of out-predict what they were going to play on my ends, because I definitely made some major changes from our Week 1 matchup. And so I just set up Misty Terrain here just in case, you know, so that they can't Yam, because Dark Pulse isn't going to do much damage anyway. And Psycho Cut goes into the Swampert and kills it. And so I'm very happy. I can't believe I was able to get this. This is the furthest I ever made in playoffs. I never made it out of the first round of playoffs before in a draft league, and I'm really excited. Not only did I made it out, but I also was able to win. Thank you so much for watching, and it was a great match on Mayor's side, and I hope you enjoyed.